In the quiet dense forests of Oregon, an unsettling tale unfolded when I was just on the cusp of adulthood. This story took place when I was 18, my boyfriend Mark and I, accompanied by our friends Megan and Ethan, found ourselves drawn to the mysterious allure of an abandoned cabin deep in the heart of the woods. Our curiosity and youthful sense of adventure led us to an abandoned place. Little did we know, it would be an experience etched into our memories forever. This particular cabin, a hidden gem only accessible by a mile-long trek through the thick woods, carried an air of mystery that intrigued us. Abandoned cars, including a short school bus, ambulances, and even tractors, adorned the path leading to the cabin. Each vehicle, marked by the scars of gunshots, left us wondering about their origin and how they ended up there in the first place. Before the fateful encounter, Mark and I had visited the cabin with two other friends, Sarah and Jake. Our first expedition involved a playful session with a Ouija board upstairs, where we discovered a peculiar, massive child sock concealed within the wall. A mysterious ticking alarm clock spooked us, leading to its swift demise. The discovery of a girl's boot with a bone inside in the outdoor cellar only added to the eerie ambience. Despite the oddities, we left without any major disturbances. Intrigued by our experience, we shared the tales of the cabin with our friends Megan and Ethan, deciding to embark on another journey. The day of our second visit began innocently enough, a relaxing time by the lake, a stop at Ethan's house to drop off a cooler, and then parking the car at Mark's parents' place. Armed only with flashlights, we commenced our mile-long trek through the woods, passing through two massive drainage tunnels to reach the cabin. Upon arrival, an inexplicable shift in the atmosphere caught our attention. The cabin seemed different, almost as if it awaited our return. Undeterred, we ventured inside, Megan and I opting to explore the upper floor. Our objective was to revisit the mysterious sock in the wall and the broken clock from our previous visit. As we ascended the stairs, an unexpected crash reverberated through the cabin, startling us. It sounded like an object being hurled and knocked over. Megan, visibly frightened, sprinted outside, her panicked cries urging us to follow. Catching up with her by the creek, she tearfully recounted seeing someone peering through a window at us. Bewildered, we searched the vicinity, finding no signs of any intruder. With Megan in distress, we decided to leave immediately. The return journey, however, was far from ordinary. Large rocks, resembling boulders, stood upright in a perfect line along the creek bed. Objects that hadn't been there just 20 minutes ago. The anomaly sent shivers down our spines, quickening our pace. As we reached the first drainage tunnel, we encountered yet another inexplicable phenomenon. Our flashlights, which had worked perfectly on the way in, refused to turn on. The eerie darkness heightened our anxiety, and the journey that should have taken us back to Mark's parents' house felt unnervingly prolonged. Upon reaching Ethan's car, where Megan sought refuge, another twist awaited us. Megan, who had initially retreated into the car, emerged screaming, jumping, and flailing. To our astonishment, she was covered in ants. Upon inspecting the trunk, Ethan discovered a large, rusty, and ancient woolen sock, now infested with ants, seemingly materialized out of thin air. The surreal nature of the discovery left us dumbfounded. We had been in and out of that trunk all day, and there was no trace of the sock when we left Ethan's house. The bizarre events of that day, from the upright boulders to the malfunctioning flashlights and the sudden appearance of the ant-covered sock, defied all logic. Later revelations about the cabin's former inhabitant, known as Harrison but often called Huey, only added a sinister layer to our experience. His disturbing journals, found by Mark during a previous visit, detailed his dark inclinations, particularly towards children. The unsettling encounters and unexplained phenomena at the cabin convinced us never to return. That day in the woods of Crestwood taught me a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the mysteries of abandoned places should remain undisturbed. The inexplicable events we witnessed serve as a chilling reminder that there are forces and occurrences beyond our comprehension, lurking in the shadows of forgotten places. It was a bitterly cold and snowy winter day, about 5 years ago, when an inexplicable and unsettling incident unfolded in our family cabin. I found myself alone in the cabin, a cozy retreat perched on a mountain, while the rest of the family ventured out for various errands, leaving me to my own devices. As I huddled in my room on the first floor, engrossed in games on my phone and accompanied by the comforting tunes of the radio, I suddenly felt an icy chill. Nonchalantly, I decided to fetch a blanket from the nearby sofa. Just as I was about to rise, a shadow flickered in my peripheral vision. I brushed it off as a figment of my imagination, a common occurrence when solitude became unnerving, especially in the solitude of a mountain cabin in the heart of winter. With my blanket in tow, I returned to my room and resumed my activities, the strange shadow momentarily forgotten. However, after about an hour, the disconcerting presence reappeared, lingering in my peripheral vision for 3 to 5 eerie seconds before dissipating once more. This time, a shiver ran down my spine, and a sense of unease crept over me. Alone in the cabin, I made a spur-of-the-moment decision to lock the door to my room, seeking solace in the illusion of security. As the minutes ticked away, a curious sound reached my ears, faint crying emanating from the second floor of the cabin. In my initial confusion, I thought it might be my little sister, who, at the tender age of 3, was prone to frequent tears. In a concerned tone, I called out, "What's wrong? Did you hurt yourself?" To my astonishment, I received a response affirming my suspicion, "Yes, I fell while playing with my dolls. Can you come upstairs and help me?" Without hesitation, I unlocked my door and started making my way toward the stairs. Yet, in that fleeting moment, reality crashed over me like a tidal wave. My little sister was not in the cabin. I was utterly and unequivocally alone. Panic set in, and I sprinted out of the cabin, clad only in a t-shirt and my father's oversized slippers, the biting cold stinging my skin. I halted about 150 meters away, casting a wary gaze back at the cabin. Through a window on the second floor, I discerned a shadow, motionless and inscrutable. Though devoid of discernible eyes, an unsettling feeling washed over me, the distinct impression of being scrutinized. Frozen in place, I stood outside in the frigid cold for what felt like an eternity, tears streaming down my face, until the comforting sight of my family's return finally materialized. Concern etched across their faces, my parents inquired about the cause of my distress. Unwilling to be labeled as irrational or haunted, I fabricated a story to downplay the intensity of my experience. However, one thing remained undeniable: I adamantly convinced my parents to drive me to my grandparents' cabin, steadfastly refusing to re-enter our own ever since that fateful day. The inexplicable encounter left an indelible mark on my psyche, and the shadowy figure continued to haunt my dreams, perpetuating a sense of fear and apprehension. To this day, the mere thought of returning to our family cabin evokes an overwhelming feeling of dread, a reluctance rooted in the unshakable memory of an unwanted presence that seemed poised to harm me. Last year, during a solitary road trip, I was seeking refuge in a quaint cabin nestled deep within a dense forest. The twilight hues painted the surroundings with a serene yet eerie ambience as I navigated a lengthy gravel road, eventually reaching the aging structure that was to be my shelter for the night. The cabin, cloaked in a weathered facade, exuded an antiquity that surpassed my expectations. Upon stepping inside, the interior revealed itself to be darker than anticipated. A scarcity of windows denied entry to the fading daylight, leaving only a solitary lamp in the corner to dispel the encroaching shadows. Discontent, I shot a text to the presumed host inquiring about the lackluster lighting. Dismissing my initial dissatisfaction, I opted to explore the dwelling, only to realize that the lamp was the sole functional source of light. Seated in a weathered sofa chair, I began to map out the second leg of my journey on my phone, attempting to distract myself from the peculiar ambience of the cabin. A sudden, forceful knock echoed through the silence, jolting me from my thoughts. My irritation surpassed my confusion as I opened the door to find a man donned in heavy winter attire claiming to be the host. His arrival, unannounced and swift, raised my skepticism. With an amiable grin, he declared his mission to rectify the lighting situation. His intrusion into the living space led me to glance out to the driveway, only to find it conspicuously devoid of any other vehicles. Puzzled, I wondered how he had arrived so promptly after my text. As he tinkered with the lamp, I mustered the courage to question him about his mode of transportation. The man's gaze met mine, and with a cordial apology, he admitted defeat in fixing the lights. Politely, I ushered him out, only to watch him retreat into the forest. His departure, coupled with the fact that I hadn't observed any other cars, evoked an unsettling feeling. Intrigued and unnerved, I observed him from a distance as he halted in the woods, his eyes fixated on the cabin. Unease lingered as I returned to the cabin, glancing through the windows intermittently. Just before I contemplated retiring for the night, another thunderous knock echoed. A palpable tension filled the air as I hesitated, eventually succumbing to curiosity and caution. The footsteps circled the cabin, leading me to the bedroom where I cautiously illuminated the room with my phone. The enigmatic visitor paused by the window, his gaze unsettlingly fixed on the cabin. Moments of silence ensued, my phone's light trained on the window, awaiting an explanation. Abruptly, he pivoted and disappeared into the darkness. Fueled by adrenaline, I hastily gathered my belongings and fled to my car, driving to the nearest gas station 6 miles away. With trepidation, I contacted the police, who later uncovered that the man claiming to be the host was an imposter. The real host, perplexingly different, could not shed light on the identity or motives of the mysterious visitor. The incident left me questioning the true nature of the encounter, pondering if the initial stranger had intentionally sabotaged the lights, and whether a sinister plan had been afoot. The enigma lingers, a haunting reminder of an unsettling night in a seemingly innocuous forest cabin. Venturing into the family cabin that had been passed down through generations, I had never been too keen on staying there due to the lack of modern conveniences. However, a tight budget led me to seek solace in its wooden walls for a couple of days. Upon arrival, the cabin's remoteness surprised me, it felt truly off the grid. After parking my car, I fired up the generator for electricity and used the family key to enter. Given its cost, free, I couldn't complain. I set up everything to my liking, made some tea, and settled by the fireplace with my laptop. There was no internet, but I had non-digital projects to immerse myself in. Time seemed to slip away, and after a few hours past sundown, I prepared for bed. Heading outside to turn off the generator, a peculiar light in the woods caught my attention. It was the only visible light for miles. I watched it meander through the trees until it slowly vanished into the distance. Puzzled, I stayed outside for a while, ensuring it was genuinely gone, before retreating back inside. The isolation of the cabin made the unexpected proximity of someone else quite unnerving. The next morning, at sunrise, I decided to investigate. I embarked on a walk toward where I had seen the light, a 20-minute journey through unmarked terrain. However, I found no signs of a walking path or any recent human activity. Baffled, I returned to the cabin, putting the strange occurrence aside for the time being. As night fell, and I ventured out to the generator once again, the light reappeared in the same spot, now stationary and glowing in the distance. It didn't move or flicker, creating an eerie atmosphere. This time, my discomfort lingered. Later in the night, groggy and half asleep, I needed to use the outhouse. Upon returning, I stumbled upon footprints outside the cabin, distinct from mine. They circled the cabin before veering off into the direction of the mysterious light. A sinking feeling enveloped me as I connected the dots. The light was now gone, and my instincts urged me to leave immediately. Grabbing my bag, I drove away into the darkness, not daring to look back. The details of that night at the cabin remained shrouded in mystery, leaving me uncertain whether I ever wanted to uncover the truth. My partner, Alex, and I embarked on an adventurous road trip to my father's remote hunting cabin, situated deep within the heart of the wilderness. The cabin, nestled far from the trappings of civilization, promised a tranquil escape into the untouched beauty of nature. Excitement filled the air as we meticulously packed all our gear into the truck the night before, eager to get an early start on our journey. The break of dawn found us unable to contain our enthusiasm, prompting us to rise early and kick off our expedition. The journey to the cabin unfolded smoothly, reaching a nearby town where we stocked up on groceries. About an hour later, we found ourselves turning down a dusty dirt road that led us towards the cabin. The path meandered through the dense woods, seemingly endless until, at last, the cabin emerged in the distance. After unpacking our bags and groceries, we looked forward to a cozy evening by the fireplace, accompanied by the warmth of the crackling flames. The sun began its descent, casting an enchanting glow across the serene surroundings. We ensured that all doors and windows were securely locked in the small, one-bedroom cabin with its 5 windows and 2 doors, a precaution that would later prove crucial. As dinner prepared, I reached for a cigarette. I realized my pack was empty. Inquiring about the carton, Alex mentioned it was in the truck. Despite his offer to fetch it, I declined and slipped on my shoes, preparing to brave the darkness outside. Being no stranger to a fear of the dark, I hesitated but asked Alex to stand by the front door while I went to the truck. As I reached in for the carton, an eerie sound echoed through the air. Initially resembling a woman's scream, it morphed into a haunting combination of howling, reminiscent of a demon and a werewolf. Fear gripped me as I made a beeline for the cabin, finding Alex's face drained of color. Something otherworldly was unfolding. The spine-chilling sound persisted, now near the living room window. Alex rushed to grab his pistol from the bedroom while I retrieved my father's hunting rifle from the closet. The unnerving howls continued, now at the front door. I stood there, my tiny hands shaking, ready to confront whatever dared to approach. Suddenly, the sound shifted to the kitchen window, and we found ourselves trapped in a nightmarish standoff. For what felt like an eternity, we clutched our weapons, frozen in fear. Eventually, the unnerving noises ceased. With trepidation, we approached the kitchen window to investigate. Alex, being taller, peered outside first, exclaiming, "My God, it ripped a hole in my truck." We discovered claw marks from the tail light to the passenger door and a gaping hole punched into it. Fearful and confused, we double-checked every window and door, ensuring they were locked. The night wore on, and we stayed awake, anxiously listening for any signs of the mysterious intruder. When morning finally arrived, we decided to inspect the truck. Alex, armed with his pistol, and I, clutching the hunting rifle, cautiously approached the damaged vehicle. To our dismay, claw marks marred the truck from the tail light to the passenger door, and a massive hole bore witness to the mysterious force that had visited us in the night. Disturbed and frightened, we contacted the forest ranger, who arrived 3 hours later. He inspected the truck and shared unsettling news. In the last 6 months, 12 people had gone missing in the area. Farms nearby reported similar sounds, and their animals were either gone or gutted by morning. The forest ranger urged us to leave, expressing his reluctance to spend prolonged periods in the area. We wasted no time, hastily tossing our belongings into the truck and speeding down the dirt road. Once we reached the main road, we thanked the ranger, still shaken by the unexplained horrors we had encountered. To this day, no explanation or resolution has been found for the mysterious events that unfolded in those woods. The unknown entity or force that terrorized us remains a haunting enigma, and we have never dared to return to that cabin in the secluded wilderness. The eerie memories of that night linger, leaving us with a sense of dread and a profound respect for the mysteries that can lurk in the vast unknown.